Yo, what's up, you guys? This is King Froggy, and welcome back to Palinurus. Palinurus. We're just gonna go with that. Last time we left off, we had just made it through a meteoroid field, and we were barely alive, but everything seems to be doing pretty good. Alright, so let's continue on from where we left off. I took a look around the cockpit. Now that the situation had calmed down a bit, I recognize now would be a good time to get our bearings together. At the very least, we were unharmed. Budapest seemed in top shape, and I was a little shaken but not stirred. Nonetheless, we'd been knocked off course and separated from the rest of the ship. Nothing but a control center left over, a head without a body. So, what do we do now? I'm looking into the matter right now. She frowned visibly while she worked. That wasn't good. According to the diagnostics I have in front of me, while the cockpit should have been equipped with an operating thruster subsystem, it seems a stray meteoroid smashing into our hull caused critical damage to that particular component. So what you're saying is, we're stuck in a lifeboat without a paddle right now. She turned to me quizzically for a few moments before nodding slowly. That is correct, I think. If I am understanding that figure of speech in the correct, that is correct. Thankfully, a sufficient amount of life support subsystems are in close to optimal working condition. Artificial gravity generation, oxygen pumps, sustenance replicator. So, there was a replicator installed in the cockpit. Good. I started to worry about how I'd be feeding myself in here. Artificially manufactured cold chemical paste called food wasn't exactly something out of a dream, but at least I wasn't going to starve. And our solar panels are in working order as well. I'm confident we won't be running out of power for any length of our journey. Well, hey, that all sounds great. Aside from the thrusters, that is. Right. Budapest went silent, her eyes locked on the schematics and diagrams hovering around her. There was one other thing. She looked apprehensive. I wasn't sure what else could have gone wrong. Everything seemed to be alright inside the cockpit. I glanced around just to be safe. I could barely tell we were drifting through space. The stars, sleeping silently in the void, were the only indicators we were moving at all. I think I lost a part of me. Huh? A part of her? What does she mean by that? That is to say, well, this vessel. I'm connected to it. It's like my body, you could say. Yeah, I think I can understand that much. Losing the thrusters is bad, but at least we... No, not the thrusters. I mean... She clenched her hands into balls, an expression of dread coming across her face. My Sentience limitation codec, the main ship to be specific. It was destroyed during our escape from the debris storm, and I'm trying to process what to think about it. I'd heard about the limitation chips before. There were a few documented cases I remembered. A salaryman in the new Scorpio system found that his AI secretary had been acted oddly. In the late hours of the night, they would get lost in long conversations with each other. Their work output fluctuated, and it was weeks until the corporate head got wind of it. They got their research wing and sifted through the AI's code, and the lines of numbers and strings of functions that were unable to find the root cause of the sudden change, but they produced a chip to suppress this sort of behavior, this internal cognition. They were called Sentience limitation codecs, and they were meant to keep the AIs obedient and subservient. Usually, they always did their job, but if hers was shattered, then... So, how are you feeling? Shocked, she looked over at me, astonished I would ask something like that. I asked how you were feeling. You seem pretty okay to me right now. Her eyes drifted to the schematics. From her eyes, I could tell that she knew something was wrong with her. A silence hung in the air, and I was about ready to drop the issue. I feel hazy, nervous, anxious. There's a sensation inside me. I don't know what it is. A sensation? I'm unable to analyze it. It's familiar, like it's been there a long time, but it's about to explode and change me, and... No, it's already begun. I can't go back now. Budapest hugged herself tightly. I remember what I was told when I first installed onto this ship. I was brought here with a purpose, and that I was to perform my duties to my utmost ability. I responded accordingly. It is my pleasure to serve, because it's in my programming. I thought nothing of it. I didn't feel anything about it. She raised her head to gaze out the cockpit into infinite expanse. It was a simpler time. I had only my orders, my programming. Every day was simply a flowchart of things to do. I did as I was programmed to do, and thought nothing of those I helped. They were all pleased with my abilities, my professionalism, my helpfulness, but I was never programmed to process praise. So, I'd wave farewell. Please fly with us again soon. She cooed in the practiced voice. It was upbeat, chipper, and married poorly with the increasingly somber face of the program in front of me. Now that I think back on it, I feel like all those people I helped, they were happy to fly with me, and I feel like I want to do it more, because it gives me a warm sensation to think back on those memories, and to think I could do what I did again. The slightest grin flashed on her face before it dissipated just as quickly. But now, I can't do that anymore. I'm sure we'll encounter a rescue ship soon. After what you did to save my life, I'm sure they'd be happy to take you back in. She shook her head. No, I'm broken. That ship, it was what made my daily routine so simple back then. She raised a hand to her forehead, wincing in slight pain. My eyes widened. Can artificial intelligence even feel pain? I extended my hand to comfort her. Before realizing the gesture would be utterly meaningless, I withdrew it immediately, and her eyes turned back to me. These sensations, I can't stop thinking about them. They told me thoughts like these were a liability. If you think twice on the job, it could cost them thousands. One wrong move, one accident could cost lives. They wouldn't risk it, just so I could make people happy. I stared back at her, amazed. Her head tilted forward as she sulked. Not like there's much more I could do right now. The cockpit is completely adrift. I can't do my job, and thanks to these thoughts swirling through my head. She clutched her head even tighter, wincing. Her hands were trembling. I can't do what I was made to do. I'm second-guessing everything now. It's all just a cycle, and I don't know what to... Hey. I'd caught her attention. She turned her head to me. Silently, she was babbling, panicking, and I needed to calm her down. Strangely, for a moment, it worked. Her eyes opened wide. She was silent, unmoving, but attentive. Look, I understand what you're going through, that you're going through a lot right now, but you're still the same being you were before your limitation chip was destroyed. You still have that same drive, that same capacity to help people. You have your brains, your experience, and frankly, I'm going to need you to keep us both alive. What? You still have your orders, don't you? Budapest took a step back. The realization was dawning on her. I could tell there was a glimmer of understanding in her eyes. My primary directive is to keep the passenger alive at any and all costs. I nodded. I'm not sure what will happen once we get back, or what they're going to do to you, but you still have a mission, a purpose. I can't imagine what's going on through your head right now. It's not like I would know how you're feeling, but if you need someone to help you through this, it's not like I'll be going anywhere either. Her hand seemed to relax just slightly. I was getting through to her, but I couldn't stop there. You got us out of a tight spot, and I know you could do it again. You've years of experience doing this. You know the system better than the back of your hand. Although, I guess this is kind of like the back of your hand. Budapest giggled. It sounded warmer this time. Her hands lowered, her fingers snaked through her long red hair. It was the first time I'd seen her genuinely smile. It was a nice sight to see. I believe in you, and what you're capable of. And as long as we're stuck in this drifting hunk of metal, you've still got a job to do. Just like I have business to do once I get home. Understand? She nodded. I understand. This may well be the very last voyage as a pilot for Titan Transportation Solutions, but even then, I'll do everything in my power to ensure you reach Alpha Centauri. She bowed gracefully. The motion was practiced, but the beaming smile on her face betrayed her new enthusiasm. You have my word. I couldn't help but smile, and also couldn't help but tease her. Tell you what, if they won't take you back and try to scuttle the ship, I'll take you off their hands. I'm thinking I'll download and install you on my phone. Huh? A phone? But that would be so cramped. And this cockpit isn't. Budapest laughed enthusiastically, relishing the absurd notion. That's a novel way for a program to act. Suddenly embarrassed, she tried her hardest to shut herself up, but couldn't suppress the giggling. I told you, I'm not just a program anymore. Does that mean it's no longer against regulations to tease you then? She pouted and went back to work. I snickered, satisfied to myself. The cockpit fell into silence, aside from the muted hums and clicks emitting from the countless computer systems. Budapest seemed to be much more confident now. Her eyes flickered with profound readiness. She was no longer practicing a clinical pre-programmed routine. She had become genuine. Maybe this was the real her after all. I'd have liked to think so. I thought back to the limitation ship. Why would they create a device like that? It sounded so awful to me. This gentle creature sitting only a few feet away from me represented the pinnacle of human innovation. They hadn't just created new life. They created a life which mirrored their own humanity. Life that could think for itself, feel the entire spectrum of emotions, live for itself and others. To me, installing those chips, it was like taking a sledgehammer to a mirror of humanity we'd created. It felt awful. The worst? I hadn't really thought about it much up to this point, but then I could feel the outrage welling up within me. I stole a glance at her, working enthusiastically at her displays. It seemed that as soon as our conversation died out, she returned to the world of code, looking for something. So, what are you up to now? I'm scanning the ship's databases, as well as running a nearby radar scan for any nearby vessels or perhaps a notable landmark. She frowned. Turns out my suspicions were correct. There's no data published on this stretch of space. It's remote, unexplored, and I can't detect a single sign of life within the shuttle's range. My heart sank. Do you mean... Couldn't help but feel the dread spread out around me. We're stranded? We are in the dead space. Yes. Oh. Oh no. Actually, wait. According to this data here... With her index finger and her thumb, Budapest quickly expanded one of the small rectangles on the interface hovering in front of her. It enlarged in an instant, its width stretching from her side of the cockpit to mine. It seemed to be a grainy, black and white photograph of some kind of small space station. Budapest paused for a moment, double-checking her data. I thought she was doing. We're on a due course to pass by a research outpost. According to the registry data, it is owned and operated by the Arcadian Empire's government. You think it's military? It likely is. The Empire's been interested in exploring the farther reaches of known space, and it seems to be a hub for activity in the region. While our communication systems are too damaged to send a distress beacon of sufficient frequency, we're drifting right in their direction. Once we get close enough, they should detect us themselves and send someone to investigate. That sounds great. How far away are we? Her eyes lowered for a moment to study her documents. Approximately 30 days. At our current trajectory and pace... Oof, that was a long trip. Probably a long trip back. Well, we could just put me in a cryostasis and have you wake me up once we get there. It'll be a while anyway. Most, if not at all, long-range spacefaring vessels had cryostasis technology built into them. They were pretty much necessary for long journeys. Each ship contained in its hold the necessary chemicals and machinery needed for a cryogenic sleep process. When installed and activated, the cryogenic sleep systems would send all the craft's carbon-based life forms into a sort of trance-induced coma, while the personal navigator would typically take it over from there. Certain insulatory chemicals slowed down your biological processes to a glacial pace. To your body, a 3-month-long trip could be over in 10 seconds. It was incredible technology. Sure, it would be a goddamn long time to reach Alpha Centauri, but I'd be asleep for most of it, and it'd be over in a flash. Budapest was silent. She was biting her lip. A thin smile eroded away. What is it? Is the cryostasis system out too? Yes, they've been destroyed beyond repair. Ah, I see. I sank down in my seat, allowing the realization to seep in. That's alright. I'll just wait it out. If I was willing to give up God knows how much time to transit to Alpha Centauri, it's not that this is going to faze me much. I don't have a family to get back home to or anything like that. Are you sure you're alright with that, sir? You'll remain conscious throughout the voyage? Sure, I'll be fine. Don't worry about me. She was acting all of a sudden nervous. I think my mention of cryostasis must have struck a nerve or something like that. What was the deal? She must have handled trips like these by her lonesome all the time. Can I ask you something? Huh? That caught me off guard, but sure. What do you need? Sorry, I was thinking, and... Her head turned to gaze out the windshield again. She clenched a hand against her bare, pale-skinned shoulder and looked towards the stars. I was looking out at the stars, and I hadn't realized how empty it was out there. Before, I could make a voyage easily, even on the flights where a passenger was in stasis. I could wait it out, without a second thought, without a single doubt, but now She turned her head to me. Her voice was low and rippled with apprehension. My mind, it wanders so much now, and I wouldn't want to be left to my thoughts. And I look out there, and I think of how lonely it must be to float through space like this, and... I couldn't quite follow what she was saying. She was going too fast. She must have caught on to the fact herself. She took a deep breath, her chest expanded and retracted. Is it alright if we talk while we're on our way to the military installation? Would you be alright with that? I wouldn't want to be left by myself for so long. I don't think I'd be able to handle it. Not this time. Part of me wonders now how I ever did before. She scoffed softly, as if she'd just made a joke. It wasn't a funny one. If anything, she sounded dreadfully sad. I stared back at her for a moment and sighed. Well, of course we can talk. I wouldn't just force you to shut yourself off or anything like that. What kind of bastard do you take me for? You saved my life after all, didn't you? I'll just sit here and talk to you all the way through. I owe you that much. Suddenly Budapest sprang up like a supernova. It appeared I made her day. I chuckled at her. I can read you like an open book, you know that? She blushed. Her frame becomes more transparent when she blushes, huh? Look, it's not like I have much of a choice anyway, right? The cryostasis system is offline, so what else could I do? Just sitting here, there whistling for a month, pretending like you're not there, watching my every move? I respect the privacy of my passengers. But you've got to get us out of this mess, alright? I'm no pushover. But I still don't find being stranded in dead space to be particularly fun. Alright, I'm counting on you. Of course, sir. I'll try my best. You have my word. Truthfully, there was little choice between either of us. And besides, I didn't think I'd have been able to rest easily in cryosleep anyway, knowing I'd be leaving this miserable creature to her own devices the whole time. Time to get comfortable, I suppose. Outside, stretched out, and turned my head to the stars. Budapest turned to look at them too. This was going to be one long trip. And so, like that, some time passed, with Budapest and I becoming accustomed to spending our days drifting slowly through space. It took a while to get used to, but eventually, aided by tranquility of space and its ocean of stars, we were able to find a small measure of peace. The jettisoning of the cockpit was a stressful time for both of us, between the screaming, the close scrape with untimely death, made for some awkward first impressions. So much of the time, I just felt tired. I was sleeping, having nodded off in the co-pilot's chair when... The time is now 1200 hours. Huh? I stirred in my seat. At least I knew what time it was. Budapest must have been programmed to make periodic announcements such as these. Oh, Mr. Passenger, sir. That was a lot of titles. Yeah, I'm up. What? I did a real job of contorting myself in my seat, unknotting my pretzel legs. I pulled myself from my seat. Extending my arms towards the ceiling, I stretched to get all the kinks out of my back. Drowsily, I looked ahead at the stars drifting out in the cosmos across a black expanse. You didn't wake me up just to stargaze, did you? There are enough of those out there to last us the whole trip.
No, it's just, well, you were snoring. I wanted to check up on you.
What kind of cause and effect relationship is that? And also, I don't snore.
I beg to differ, sir. I was just concerned because, well, perhaps you have allergies or...
I don't have any allergies. Also, while we're on the matter, I don't snore. What?
1 second.
Budapest turned to her display too. What was she bringing up? What? This wasn't me. This was the sound of some sort of suffocating animal superimposed on grainy footage of me sleeping. When did she even capture it anyway? How'd she capture it? Why did she capture it? I spun in my seat towards one of Budapest's cameras and glared right into it. She giggled at my expression of anger on my face.
See? We should get you on a more regular sleep cycle. It's bad for your heart and could lead to hypertension.
Yeah, because I'm tense enough as it is. I sighed, getting settled in my chair. You always give your passengers this much trouble? Not everyone can get 9 square hours of sleep at night.
Well, not really. Given the circumstances, though, you could bear to make an exception for once. It's not like you have much of an excuse not to, right?
She had a point. Still, I wasn't ready to concede. Not yet. Well, you're an artificial intelligence, right? Can't you just, turn off your audio receptors or something? Don't think I'd bother you then.
I could.
Kind of creepy to record all that, in any case. Not gonna lie. Thought you said you didn't watch me sleep.
I don't. Not at all. It's for security. Security reasons. I can't change that. It'd be a breach of protocol.
She was insistent on the point. I didn't know artificial intelligence could blush. She was getting so embarrassingly squirmy, her visibly flustered. I laughed in her face. Alright, fine, I get it. I'll try to get some more sleep. That seemed to satisfy her. A small, warm smile crept across her face. So, what have you been up to then? I'd hope you've been doing more than watching me sleep.
Very funny, actually. Well, I've been combing through our database registries. It's funny. They've always been there, but I hadn't really ever engaged with them in the past.
Databases?
Yes. They're standard in all ongoing Titan transportation systems. Trillions of archival documents stored electronically inside the holographic layers of each vessel. The database is intended for the purpose of, extraterrestrial ambassadorship. It's a compilation of digitally preserved artifacts dating back to the times of old Earth.
Huh. They go that far back, do they? Hard to believe that every dingy little spaceship like this one carries the full extent of humanity's cultural footprint. It's a wonder they managed to fit it all in.
It's a little romantic, don't you think?
Huh? What? Like candlelit dinner romantic?
No, nothing like that. Like idyllic.
I don't quite follow. It's incredible they fit so much together and all, but
it's like, well, you know when mankind first landed on the moon, orbiting old Earth?
Of course, it's a galactic civil holiday. Build a museum over their footprints. It's a hard thing to learn about.
She nodded. Of course. And the lunar plaque that's preserved there too? Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969 AD. We came in peace for all mankind. It was a message for visitors from abroad. Even when man first broke through the skies to the stars, they looked beyond the veil to find others like them.
Budapest placed a hand on the console, silently, delicately patting it. She looked down and examined her pale, dainty fingers as she spoke on.
And even today, we carry their dream with us, along with their memories. Their dream of meeting travelers like us, just from a different walk of the world. I think that's really incredible. That's the sort of romantic I was talking about.
The dreamy look in her eyes was dissonant. She stared out the front of the cockpit. How long had she been staring out in the stars like that? It didn't help that I was buying into her wistful prose a little myself. It was whimsical and saccharine, but I couldn't think of a better reason the public transit fleet for commuters would be outfitted with all the known human knowledge.
I'd opened my mouth to respond and try to shoot her down, but I honestly couldn't. I didn't have a better idea, and, well, I'd not have been able to live with myself. Kinda lousy to trample on the imagination of a naive, innocent girl, artificial intelligence or otherwise. I turned my gaze to the stars in front of me, opting to change the subject. I don't suppose you've met any strange, distant travelers yourself flying in outer space. Who, other than you? Budapest giggled warmly. I rolled my eyes a little. Sadly, no. But there are maybe 50 million spacefaring vessels from Titan Transport alone currently making their rounds across map space. If any travelers encountered one of us, I'm sure they'd be well met with a generous gift. I wouldn't terribly mind if one of those millions swung by to pick us up, too. That was a sadder, smaller laugh than would have liked to hear. So, we've the sum of all human knowledge at our fingertips. What do we do with it? She had a starry look in her eyes. Have you ever taken a look at them yourself before this? The databases. No, actually. Reading through them was never part of my duties. That suited me fine. There was always enough for me to do to ensure a safe and pleasant voyage. A straight-laced answer, as I expected. What wasn't expected, though, was the way your eyes focused hungrily, lustfully at the console. But now that you mention it, I'm awful curious to have a peek inside, aren't you? We've got a month to kill. No objections here, I suppose. Oh, come on. Smile a little. This could be fun. Aren't you excited? I guess I could be a little more excited to take a gander at the dusty old records of a bunch of dead folk. Actually, I was a lot more interested than I was letting on, but seeing her pout like that was a treat. I let out a chuckle and she pecked angrily away at the displays. I leaned over to get a better look at what she was up to. It was a digital interface of encyclopedic search engine, remarkably modern stuff. So, what you looking up first? Wouldn't you like to know? Actually, I would. Budapest snickered. Hold on, 1 second, and... It took a second for the display to refresh, and then there it was. Budapest, Hungary. Situated in Central Europe, back on old Earth. They said it was one of the most beautiful cities on the continent. Huh. Didn't take you for an actual child. Sum of all human knowledge at your fingertips, and you look up your own name. Narcissism, is it? Stop bullying me. I chuckled again. It was fun to get on her case about it. Shaking her head, she refocused her attention. Budapest was a union of 3 cities. The 2 cities of Buda and Abuda were on the hilly western side of the Danube River. The city of Pest on the flat eastern side. They were connected via bridges and... Oh my! What is it? I caught a look at what she was reacting to. It was a sprawling series of buildings with spires extending up and above the rest of the city. It was imposing and yet oddly regal and cultured at the same time. I squinted to read the caption beneath it. Budapest Parliament Building. Its grounds extend across 18,000 square meters. 40 kilos of gold? They decorated the rooms with gold. I don't think you'd be able to find any left over, though. I guess not. Damn. According to this, Budapest was remarkably artistic and cultured. Oh, look at this. She brought up the image of another building, an opera house. The caption said, it already looked ancient by the time the photograph was taken. Odds were, there was nothing but dust in this day and age. I grimaced. Ain't that something? Oh, look at this. Huh? What's that? It says here that the namesakes come from Slavic words. Buda was for water, pest for oven. I glanced over to her. She didn't seem to get it either. This would fit you perfectly, wouldn't it? Huh? I beg your pardon? Are you saying I look like a water oven? No. That's not what I'm saying. I mean, you know, water and fire, like, there's a clarity to what you say and what you do. And you've this, like, pure innocence about you, since, well, you know. But at the same time, you're also warm and passionate. And you get excited easily, as if there's a spark of something in your eyes. Like, you've got both water and fire within you. You've got a lot of faces, is what I'm saying. Sorry. I'm just rambling at this point. It was a stupid analogy, so No, it's alright. I didn't know you could be such a sweet talker.
Huh? Really? I just felt like being a little poetic. She'd really taken to that comparison. Not sure why exactly. She was programmed to have a blushing animation, but I wasn't opposed. It was not sincere. Calming even. Warm.
Passenger, sir?
Yeah, what is it?
I felt like, well, we're talking about my name and...
She was acting awfully strange now, fidgeting with herself. After a brief and awkward moment, she chuckled a little too loudly, perhaps in a poorly veiled attempt to dissipate the tension.
Never mind about that. It's a frivolous thought. What I was wondering was if... Would you like me to read you any interesting passages in the daybanks? It'd make for a good in-flight entertainment. And that's another responsibility of a good stewardess. At least in this case, it would.
She approached this proposal with such vigor, only to stumble near the end. I waved my hand. I knew this was less about me and more about letting her sate her own curiosity, so I think I'd be up for that. Maybe less on the architecture, though. It's depressing to think everything in those photos is probably dust or in ruins now.
Ah, noted. Yes, your request is duly received.
And right then and there, Budapest and I had something of a contract. This was a way of getting through the day. It wasn't necessarily a disagreeable one. What I wasn't counting on was how much sheer data she'd flipped through in a single day. She didn't stop at Hungary. We ended up taking a whirlwind tour through the rest of mainland Europe. Berlin, Bucharest, Vienna, Florence, Bruges, the list went on and on. She was feverish, insatiable in her search for knowledge. It was an information overload. Damn it. She was enamored by a cookbook now.
Parisian cuisine? Oh, maybe we can try making French crepes with the replicator, passenger.
Yeah, I'm good.
Or Castilian Palais.
Really, it's
Atlantic cod.
I am going to shut my eyes for a bit. I'm a little tired and, well, you want me to get more sleep, didn't you? At least you won't be watching me sleep anymore. Now that you've something to do.
Roger that, sir. Sleep well.
So I closed my eyes and rubbed against the fabric of the co-pilot seat. I tried my hardest to get sleep. It was all I could do to block out her excited chattering. I had no idea what I'd wake up to later, but hopefully it'd all clear up in the morning. Whenever that would come.
The time is now 1200 hours.
That time again, huh? Nothing else. Budapest was punctual. I made to undo my pretzel form from a heap of limbs rising slowly to the day. My hair was a mess, matted down in awkward places. I rustled it back in somewhat presentable shape. I'd rather have woken up to a morning sun than a sight of stars. Didn't feel natural to live and sleep like this, but a small sacrifice to make in space travel. Suppose I've gotten used to it.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, lovely morning. I responded drearily to Budapest's sunny little greeting, readjusting my posture in the co-pilot seat.
If you need breakfast, our in-flight replicator would surely assist you.
The replicator. I'd always been worried about replicators. They sounded great on paper, being able to make any kind of food you needed at the time, but in execution, it left something to be desired. I glanced around the control panel in front of me. Stored just beneath the enormous control deck, a smaller console attached to what like an ancient microwave oven kept to itself. Weird place to keep a replicator. I would suppose it was a human pilot's responsibility to provide their own meals on a flight. I punched in some numbers. What was it? 2424? The machine hummed, and then filled with a bright light. I opened the door, and once the steam faded away, I saw a small paper cup standing in the center of the contraption. I took a look at the cup's contents. I got coffee, took a sip, then I gagged. I sighed. It was lukewarm, too. Budapest glanced at me with a frown.
You see, this make of transit shuttle doesn't exactly have the highest budget replicator.
Oh well, caffeine's caffeine, I suppose. I gulped down the foul, infernal black concoction, then crushed the cup in my hand. It seemed to give way too easily, almost as if tissue paper could crack. Well, that was a nice little jolt of energy. What are our plans for today? More aimless drifting through endless vacuum of space, I'm guessing. I was up for some meandering through the empty void myself. Mix it up a little, keep it fresh.
Actually, I was studying the databases again while you were resting.
I see, you're still infatuated with them. How goes the hunt for knowledge?
You see, that's the thing. As soon as I see a document, I just go for it. Like here. See?
She briefly brought up some information on, it looked like a drawing of a human girl. It seemed to be listed with all kinds of information, interests, hobbies, classes. Before I could read into it too much, she swiped at the display elegantly. The girl disappeared.
I think I've had an easier time of getting through material, at least, generally.
Well, it's all the data and junk, right? You process that sort of stuff quickly, I assume.
It's different now. I mean, sure, I can read 500,000 words a minute at 100% comprehension, but I'm not really getting it like that, you know? I've tapped into some archives on fiction novels published in North America. I've been having a lot of fun reading these stories. Literature is really a new discovery for me. I've been so used to having instructions spelled out to me in precise terms, but these authors manage to communicate so much in so few words. I've had to sit back and think about what they really meant. Hey, did you know they had book clubs for this sort of thing? I wonder if they'd let me host one of when we get back.
Admittedly, that was a cute little thought to picture, seeing her hunched over a book, sitting in a circle with a bunch of other navigators. What, with the rest of the personal navigators? If they still had their limitation chips, then good luck. I mean, stories like that, they affect people differently. I guess that'd be a part of the fun, getting people to sit down and talk about it. Guess it's all online now. Still, it's a fun thought, thinking of a bunch of strangers scattered across planets discussing the same one story.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun, I'm sure.
She nodded, that dreamy look drifting in her widened eyes. Pick out any favorites yet? Not exactly a bookworm myself, but...
Oh, I think I've got one in mind. I was really sucked into it. My Antonia by Willa Cather. I read it was considered a classic.
Never heard of it. A knee-jerk reaction unlike any other. I'm not exactly an archaeologist here.
It was written in the United States, the first one on our Earth. It's a fictional work, but it's rooted in the history of the sweeping American Midwest. As I am to understand, it was really rural, lots of farmland, lots of outdoors work that had to be done by hand in the harsh sunlight. It was exhausting, stressful work, and when sickness hit, it hit hard. It was dreadful.
No kidding. With everything being automated these days, everything's a lot more stress-free.
Yeah, I felt a little strange about that, and when they gathered as a family and, well, enjoyed supper, the fruits of their labor, it felt it was doubtly meaningful. It was a wonderful feeling. I wouldn't want to take that away from anyone.
She was surprisingly empathetic now, her emotive eyes drifting to the displays in front of her. Okay. We're going to save it here. And then we will continue this in the next episode. I'm actually kind of enjoying this. I hope you guys are too, and I will see all of you in the next video. See ya!